Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Ken Muich, Fibromyalgia Wellness Center, and we have a number 117 live video presentation today. Again, just a reminder, you can go on YouTube, you can go back on Facebook, and check many of the videos that we have produced on not only fibromyalgia, but also other health-related subjects that actually tie in with fibromyalgia many times, both directly and indirectly. We're going to be talking today about something that is directly involved with fibromyalgia, believe it or not. It has to do with something called hypoglycemia and diabetes. Now, they are different, and we're going to cover that and also the symptoms that are directly similar to those of fibromyalgia, which there are many of them. You probably have heard of these. Obviously, everybody's heard of diabetes itself, and many of you may or may not have heard of hypoglycemia. But we have found research-wise that 45%, at least 45% of our fibromyalgia patients are actually hypoglycemic, and that is low blood sugar, whereas diabetes is high blood sugar. I guess that's the easiest way to figure these out. But did you know that you could have hypoglycemia and diabetes both at the same time? Or you can just have hypoglycemia by itself, which makes it very, very interesting. Now, there's two types of diabetes generally involved. Type 1 diabetes is the insulin-dependent juvenile. Most people are born with it, with the pancreas that is not functioning correctly. Insulin is produced by the pancreas, and in a type 1 diabetic, it's insulin dependent. Type 2 diabetes is not insulin dependent, but it has causes that bring this out. Causes that we have a bad, shall we say, lifestyle. Lifestyle changes can actually control that. What are bad lifestyles? Well, eating things like simple carbs, a lot of sugars, pizza, wheat bread, pasta, cereal, simple sugars, donuts, candy, etc., etc. All of those things can actually adversely affect your body and can actually cause this type 2 diabetes, which means if it's a lifestyle thing, it also is something that you can actually control. Healthy diet and exercise are very, very important. I'm going to throw out two things that I think are very, very important. If you are right on the edge of diabetes, or you're concerned about it, or you already have diabetes, especially type 2, cinnamon is very, very important as far as a controlling aspect. Not only is it protects the glucose, it actually breaks down some of the glucose, but it's also excellent because it reduces cholesterol for you. The other item is chromium picolinate or picolinate, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. Those things could be easily purchased by you and used if you are pre-diabetic or if you're concerned about it or you already are a diabetic itself. Now, how about those symptoms? It's very, very interesting that they have a lot of similarities in itself between fibromyalgia, hypoglycemia, and diabetes. The symptoms include headaches, irritability, fatigue, dizzy, anxiety, loss of concentration, or what we call fibro fog for fibromyalgia patients, sweats, heavy sweats for people, many have, numb and tingle feeling, where you have what we call paresthesia, or numbness and tingling, especially in the limbs and the feet, maybe the legs, the fingers, and so forth. Nervousness, confusion, clammy skin, very, very interesting. Usually cold, sometimes it can be hot for people depending upon the individual, but that's not an uncommon thing. Blurred vision. You might want to ask yourself, why blurred vision? Some of the smallest blood vessels that you have in the body are your eyes, and diabetes actually affects blood vessels, and so one of the first things that you'll actually have adversely affected is your eyes and eyesight. So make sure that if you are concerned about this, you have controlling factors, that lifestyle changes that are very, very important. Frequent infections are very, very common with not only fibromyalgia patients, but also diabetics and hypoglycemics. That's very, very interesting also, because I keep on telling patients, especially fibromyalgia patients, that they have secondary conditions. They just don't have fibromyalgia. And that makes it more susceptible to other conditions in itself. You've heard the stories about diabetics at their worst, losing their fingers and their toes and so forth because of circulation and infections. Once you get an infection, it takes a long time to heal. Add that on to fibromyalgia patients, which it takes, I just had to do a personal injury report on a fibromyalgia patient, and it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 times longer for a fibromyalgia patient to heal. Add that on with diabetes, and we're talking about a long-term problem that you can actually have. So all of those symptoms that I talked about are very, very common with fibromyalgia patients. I'm actually mentioning to you these fibromyalgia symptoms, and that's why it's so important to understand that if you have hypoglycemia or diabetes, you actually could be having flare-ups of the combination. Here we go again. So what can you do with this? Well, we put patients on what we call a restricted hypoglycemic diet. If you look up hypoglycemia, they have diets. But most of the hypoglycemic diets, you'll see, they have strict and they have what we call variable or optional, where they allow you to have all these other foods, okay, in. Well, if you're going to do it right, do it correctly. You're going to have to be strict, okay, which means we take all sugar, that's fake sugars, and the simple sugars. Now, look, you can't take sugar out of your diet if you're going to eat fruits and vegetables. And those are very, very important in a restricted hypoglycemic diet. So when we say sugars, we're talking about simple and fake. You know, the equals and all of the other ones that you have, the yellow packets, the blue packets, and all the other sugar packets. They're not good for you, believe me. They're not good at all. You have to stay away from those. They're just going to add on to your problems. Gluten. Gluten is wheat, rye, barley, malt, all of those things. So you're going to have to read all of the labels on your breads that you eat, okay? You're going to have to maybe even look into gluten-free products. But look at the ingredients, because some of the gluten-free products have extra sugars involved. So you're going to just have to root around and look and see. There's gluten-free pasta, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of different products. I've mentioned numerous times for those people that have been listening to me on a regular basis. For you that are new, look, my daughter, one of my daughters, has gluten problems, celiac disease, and I mentioned that to her as she was growing up. But obviously, she didn't listen to Dad until she ended up in a hospital, and then all of a sudden, she thought it was the end of the world. But if you go through the supermarket and you stay away from those things that are on the edges, okay, a lot of the good stuff is on the inside. And all of a sudden she realized that she can live a healthy, sane life by just staying off of gluten itself. So that's very, very important we understand. So sugar is bad, gluten, trans fatty acids. Okay, trans fatty acids are interesting. You can't stay away from all of the meats and everything else, I understand that, but red meat and pork are higher in trans fatty acids. But it's the other things that are on the shelf, all of those donuts and cookies and candies and all those things in packaged goods that give it a shelf life. That's what trans fatty acids are for. It really gives it a shelf life so they don't get bad. If it didn't have that in it, literally within maybe 72 hours or longer, you'd have mold starting to form. And so that's what trans fatty acids does. It actually neutralizes that in itself. Sugar, gluten, trans fatty acids, dairy, okay, milk, and cheese, and any of the other aspects of it that you can think of as far as dairy products are concerned. You have to stay away from those. Now, are you adversely affected by all of these? No. Okay, but all of those I mentioned are inflammatory in one form or another, and some of you have a much higher degree of inflammation than others. So that's why we place patients on a restricted hypoglycemic diet. We put them on a gentle detox and so forth for about 2.5 weeks. So we take it out of your system first. So your body is craving it. You're going to maybe even have withdrawal symptoms on some of these things, you know, that we're taking away from you. But you got to fight your way through it. And then after about 2.5 weeks, we add one food every 72 hours again. From mouth to evacuation, getting rid of it out of your body is around 65 hours. So rather than say 65 hours and confuse you, just 3 days. Find out whether or not you have a reaction when you add that food to your system. What kind of reaction? Well, in my book I wrote, Fibromyalgia, Falsehoods, Fakers, and Facts. I kind of made a joke out of it, but it's very, very true. It's like the seven dwarfs. Itchy, scratchy, sneezy, dopey, headachy, bloaty, anything else that you can think of that is not normal after you eat. Why do you suppose so many people after a big turkey dinner all of a sudden get bloated out, they fall asleep, maybe break into a sweat, have a headache, all these different things? It's because your body is not used to some of those foods, and so you have this big reaction, okay? That's what we're looking for you once you add the food. Once you add the food, if you don't have a bad reaction, great. But you still should, if you're, again, pre-diabetic, diabetic, hypoglycemia, you're going to have to reduce sugar, gluten, trans fatty acids, and dairy from your diet if you want to stay healthy. Again, remember what I said, it's a lifestyle change. Either you're going to do it and stay healthy, or you're going to be sick. And once you hit that diabetic phase, man, I'll tell you, you're not going to like it at all right? Because it adversely affects you in so many different ways. Also, in reading up, you're going to have to stay off of diet drinks. That's very, very bad for you, okay? Diet drinks, any ones that have fake sugars in them, you're going to have to break yourself off of those, okay? Also, you're going to have to stay off of fruit juice drinks. Listen, unless you take it off of a tree and squeeze it and drink it immediately, that's great. Otherwise, all these things that you buy in the store, whether or not it's added vitamin C, all this stuff, believe me, you're really drinking a lot of sugar water than you are actual fruit juice itself. So you're really going to have to minimize that. Also, again, milk, again, low fat, doesn't make any difference, low fat, whatever. Look, drink coconut milk or almond milk or something like this rather than substitute that other than what you're actually drinking. It's going to make a world of difference for you in a short run and also in the long run. So you want to stay away from those things. They really can cause a lot of problems as far as your health is concerned. So, at least 45% of fibromyalgia patients have hypoglycemia, which means you could have, like I said, hypoglycemia and diabetes, or hypoglycemia in itself, by itself. Okay, so keep in mind that what we're trying to do is give you every possibility to understand not only the symptoms of fibromyalgia, but also all of the different aspects of fibromyalgia and other related conditions that actually mimic fibromyalgia and then confuse you. I keep on getting all these messages about I'm having another flare-up and so forth and so on. Well, is it fibromyalgia or is it some other condition that you have that you're actually magnifying or exacerbating or irritating because of the foods you're eating probably? Bad, again, lifestyle in itself. So if you have to, number one, understand the other conditions you have. You have to understand fibromyalgia. You have to be able to control your diet properly so that you don't have the secondary side effects. And I really and truly believe a lot of these flare-ups are because of poor habits. Okay? Yes, fibromyalgia is involved. Once you start having a reaction from another condition, what did I say over and over again? Fibromyalgia makes all conditions and their symptoms worse. Okay? So if you already have diabetes, if you already have hypoglycemia, and you start having bad flare-ups, check and see what your diet is like, okay? Again, we put you on a restricted hypoglycemic diet. What does that include? No sugar, no gluten, no trans fatty acids, no dairy. But you have a lot of fruits and vegetables, chicken, fish, shellfish, turkey, all the wonderful things that are healthy for you, okay? Rather than getting yourself sick. Everybody has decisions to make. Your decision, if you have these conditions, is whether or not you want to do something about it or not. A lot of you I know are frustrated. You've already given up. There's answers for everything. Believe me, it's not the end of the world, even though you've been suffering with this for years. Okay? You can't control a lot of this. It just has to take a whole picture, not just a part of it. Okay? Please contact us if you have any questions. Fibromyalgia Wellness Center, as far as website, or my email, dcken2000@cs.com. D as in dog, C as in cat, Ken, K-E-N, number 2000, 2000, at C as in cat, S as in Sam.com. Many of you have sending questions, information, so forth and so on. You can also join in this discussion. This is a live video. You can ask questions. You can do a variety of different things, and I'll get back in touch with you even directly right now. Or later on, you can send me information or send me requests and questions. Thank you so very, very much. Look forward to seeing you next week again. I think we'll be talking about, again, we're talking about conditions and how they relate to fibromyalgia, other conditions which can mimic fibromyalgia. So I think we're going to talk about MS next week and break that down a little bit. And also probably maybe talk a little bit about stress, today's stress and how it's adversely affecting you. Hey, thank you so very, very much. This is Dr. Ken Muich, Fibromyalgia Wellness Center, Stetson Chiropractic Clinic. Wishing you all well, happiness, and health over this next week. And look forward to seeing you and talking to you next week. Invite your family, friends, doctors, whatever else. We may have that one bit of information that can make a big difference in your life. Thank you so very, very much. Been working with fibromyalgia patients since 1990. I think I've seen many, many things that can help you with. Bye-bye now.